Mitä ajatuksia Autopsy Simulator, siis ruumiin avaussimulaattori? Tää voi olla vähän kuumottava. Lähdetään kokeilemaan.
No, do not call me anymore. It's none of my business.
Lagaa vähän tää kutskene ainakin. Alright. Cup. Voi käännellä. Sigarettebox. Extra strong. 10 pack. Silloin kun minä olin nuori, niin vielä sai 10 pack tupakoita. Sitten niiden myynti lakkautettiin, koska ne on houkuttelevampia semmoisille satunnaispoltteille ja ehkä jopa lapsille, koska ne oli lasten aske. Completely broken.
Don't take my pills.
Look for your pills. Go to the bathroom. How to break out of this vicious cycle? What the fuck, man? Oliko tässä jotenkin kauhupeli? Love, Alice.
I borrowed it from Stephen. Since Alice died, Stephen is the only person I trust.
Okei, Alice on kuollut. Ja siltä me oltiin saatu... Okei. WC. Vittu, että lagaa tää peli. Okei.
Fuck. Where are my meds?
Pills. Red pill.
All right. Now I can go get the camera.
Go to storage wet pint. Storage ehkä täällä. Autopsy Simulator is story-driven mystery with simulation elements. Step into an eerie dissection room to perform realistic corpse examination, which will lead you to solving disturbing cases and facing horrors. Both supernatural and those of your past. Fuck, tää peli ei vaikuta hyvältä, okei. Tää record room.
This place is starting to look like a garbage dump rather than a storage room.
Joo, kamera.
Well, I hope I won't forget to press the record button this time.
Autopsy room.
Let's move on straight to our deceased.
Put the video camera on the trap.
Tripod is going to work.
Selvä. Pikku VHS-vlogi tosta pierästään.
Just frame it properly and... Oh, this should be fine. November 21st, 1990.
Mun synttäreitä edeltävät päivät.
8:43 p.m. Recording for medical students from the University of Missouri. The autopsy is conducted by Jack Hammond. Ladies and gentlemen, it is always worth having a look at the files before conducting the autopsy. That is where we can find all kinds of clues to what could have potentially happened to the deceased.
Sen tiedosto eli file.
Well, who do we have here today?
Mention the rookie mistakes.
Mention the rookie mistakes. Oh yeah, that's right. That's my warrant to sensify you for a few issues. First, due to the fact that in the process of revealing and securing forensic traces, interference that changes the primary condition happens. The photographic documentation plays a huge role in the entire process of examination. Then, the body needs to be placed on its back on the autopsy table. The pathomorphologist stands on the left-hand side of the body. Third, very rarely but still, the cause of death remains unknown if all the tests come out negative. That's the so-called white autopsy. Now remember that it can also happen. Found on the outskirts of a parking lot near a gas station, where he often begged and insistently offered to clean the windows of cars.
Se on ollut semmoinen, joka on halunnut putsata ihmisten ikkunoita.
Dry field drain. A frequent cause of traumatic deaths among the elderly is the various types of accidents, including traffic accidents or falling down the stairs. The body was spotted by a station worker during the morning shift. At first, he thought that someone had thrown rain boots and a coat in a nearby ditch. It took him a moment to recognize a human body laying on its back. The deceased is locally known as Old Toby. The body was found at 7 o'clock by Sheriff Matthew Thompson. Mention the rookie. That's my warrant to sensify you for a few issues. First, due to the fact that in the process of revealing and securing forensic traces,
Kiitos. Find and put the gloves on. Eli
the damn gloves.
hyväksyks Donitsi? Okay. Ei mitään yhtään tämmöstä kivaa kevyttä. Jättää sitä siis vähän käytetyn.
Now we can get to work. We're going to need the camera. It should be here somewhere.
Find the camera. Joku toinen kamera vai?
Must have left it in one of the drawers.
Ei oo täällä. Puhutaan varmaan valokuvakamerasta. Sieltä. Kiva pikku Polaroid-muistoksi tästä.
Let's follow the procedure and prepare photo documentation. We must follow the top-down rule. Luckily, we don't have to take pictures of the clothes this time. We are only focusing on the body. Let's keep in mind it's all about the legibility, not the perfect frame. Before we start searching for traces on the deceased's body, we have to take a main picture that goes in the files.
Top-down kuva. Otetaanko me niinku tästä se?
Voila! Now we move on to the next step. Trace search.
Find spots on the body to photograph. Tääkö ei kelpaa? 1/4. Kelpas.
People affected by homelessness most often die from accidents, alcohol abuse, or they freeze to death. Unfortunately, both suicide and homelessness. We're going to need better zoom here. And that's perfect.
Ja vielä. Kiinnostaako polvet elementtinä? Vai naama? Vai noin. Tai kun tää näyttää tää pallura, että mikä on se kuvattava kohde, totta. Käsistä.
Well, you don't have to stand close to be able to smell a strong odor of alcohol and other discharges. There's nothing left to say. Old Toby didn't spare himself.
Okay.
While taking the photos, some entries that could be potentially lethal caught my attention. Let's take a closer look using the magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass. Suurennuslasi. Investigate the potential death causes. Take the magnifier from the tool wheel. Tabista aukeaa toi. Magnifier.
There are frostbite marks all over the deceased's body. Although they are most visible on the tips of his fingers, they can be recognized by the very specific color of the skin. However, the hands tell us much more.
Okay.
By the look of his feet, I assume Toby must have worn uncomfortable and dinky shoes for quite a while. However, such wounds have nothing to do with his death.
Okay.
An old wound that hadn't healed properly. It must have been some kind of burn or other injury. Nevertheless, it has nothing to do with the potential cause of death.
Nyt me opimme tästä kaikenlaista.
That's something interesting. While making photographic documentation, ecchymosis can be seen on the deceased man's head. The appearance indicates the intravital nature of the wound. We'll come back later to see if everything is all right with the brain. What do we have here?
What do we have here?
The condition of the head tells us it could have been a fatal accident.
Fatal fall. Se on voinut kaatua. Tippua jostain.
By the look of his feet, I assume Toby must have worn uncomfortable and dinky shoes for quite a while. However, such wounds have nothing to do with his death. Yeah, the odor can be the result of alcohol intoxication.
Alkoholimyrkytys.
Could be freezing to death.
Jäätynyt kuolleeksi.
An old wound that hadn't healed properly. It must have been some kind of burn or other injury. Nevertheless, it has nothing to do with the potential cause of death.
Selvä.
That's all I can do based on all traces on the body of the deceased. The inside should tell me much more. Let's move back to the body.
Grab the right hand to perform the
Now let's
examination.
check the level of muscle tension. This will allow us to establish time of death. Let's raise the deceased's hand.
Okay.
And then let go. The stronger the rigor mortis gets, the greater the resistance from the muscles will be. As you can see, the hand falls loose.
Näköjään.
Rigor mortis has already subsided. We can then assume that the time of death stated in the files is correct.
Poliisit on tehnyt oikeata työtä, tai
Let's
oikein.
grab a scalpel.
Skalpelli.
You can boldly cut with the scalpel. It won't hurt him no more. We always start from the neck and move down towards the symphysis pubis. The incision should be deep. Next, we separate the skin and prepare to remove the ribs. The adipose tissue has an intense yellow hue. As you've probably already guessed, we're going to need the scissors. After removing both cartilage and bone tissues, we are actually interested in two things that you can see at the very first glance. The lack of organ congestion means that, although the deceased was cold, hypothermia wasn't the cause of death.
Okei, se ei kuollut hypotermiaan. Okei, magnifier.
We can eliminate freezing as the cause of death.
Okei.
The deceased smoked like a chimney. Let's take a closer look. We see widespread black and tarry deposits caused by smoking cigarettes. Despite the tragic condition of the lungs, they are not the cause of death.
Take the syringe.
Now we need to go grab the syringe. At this point, we need to test the level of blood alcohol concentration of the deceased. We also collect the fluid from the deceased to determine the level of alcohol concentration in the vitreous humor. We move on to collecting blood from the heart. 5 milliliters from the left ventricle should do it. Now, we prick the bladder and draw about 10 milliliters of fluid. Keep in mind that you have to set the right time and speed on both knobs before using the centrifuge. Our samples may break into pieces due to the centrifugal force if we set up the wrong coordinates. I myself am terrible with numbers because I suffer from dyscalculia.
Take the note from the pinboard.
Which is why I always keep the appropriate coordinates at hand.
Pinboard. Tämä. 40 min saa 75%. 40 min 75. 40 min 75. 40 min 75. Tää on niinku, onks tää nyt 75? 70. Tää on niinku, onks tää niinku 70 ja onks tää 75? 80. On se varmaan. Kai. Oh no.
Damn it. If something goes to shit, it's all the way. That's probably the blown fuses again. Held up. And I was hoping to clock out early today. What was that? Where did it go?
Okay. Store, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely the fuses. Right goes first, left next. Voila.
Turn off the radio.
Where's that unbearable noise coming from? That's strange. I'm pretty sure I closed the window.
No shit. No. Tässä on eväät kauhuun.
Oh, this probably misses me already.
Tässä on kaikki eväät kauhuun. Oi ei, tää ei ollutkaan ehkä, tää oli virhe. No se on ainakin tossa vielä.
Where were we? Alright, let's see what we've got here. Well, everything is telling us that the BAC, blood alcohol concentration, is high, hence the smell we're getting from the deceased. Still, to be 100% sure, I have to send the samples to the lab. Unfortunately, I don't have the equipment to conduct a detailed analysis here.
Okay. Take out the stomach and examine it. Jätetään nyt varmaan tohon.
Now let's take a closer look at the stomach.
I don't get it. Okei, se pitää olla
As
tolle.
expected, the stomach has no major external damage. In this case, further inspection is no use. We must cut him open.
Cut him open.
I don't need this tool now.
Aha. Miten mä kattaan sen open? Noniin, cut the stomach open, no niin. Ai tommosessa muodossa pitää se sahata. Oh no. Okei. Vituiks. Vituiks. Ja seinään. Oh no. Nyt ei ole tarkkana kuin porkkana. Tulee mieleen semmonen peli, missä ei saa osu semmoiseen metalliin, että se pitää tööt. Vähän niinku Operation esimerkiksi on sellainen, missä ei saa osua metalliin, muuten piippaa. Move closer and examine this. Okay.
That's interesting. Now, it couldn't have been suffocation, could it? Now we need to focus on the cardiovascular system, especially the heart. We take the organ and look it up and down, carefully.
Sydän. Okay. Up and down carefully.
At first glance, the heart looks fine. The pulmonary trunk and aorta seem to be in good condition. There are no pathological changes that have contributed to our Toby's death. Well, once we've got the body ticked off, we can move on to the head.
Be careful. No niin, vitsit sikseen ihan kauhea, anteeksi. Take the saw.
Let's take the autopsy saw to cut through the skull to cleave it in two. Remember, the skull, not the saw. Anyway, we will start dissecting the brain from the occipital lobe. In this way, the brain's dura mater is slowly revealing itself. After the basic examination, we can see that the cerebral gyri in both brain hemispheres are symmetric and the bumps between them are clear. So far, so good. The hematoma seems to have had no effect on the organ we're examining. Holding a knife with a long, narrow blade in your dominant hand, cut the cranial nerves on both sides, pulling the brain towards you. Just one small fragment examined under the magnifying glass is enough to dispel or confirm our doubts. We then take the fragment of the brain to the tray
Ton aivotonta menoa.
and figuratively go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Käydään läpi
Just
magnifying
as I
glass.
initially we can rule the fatal accident out as well.
No fatal accident. Okei. Okay. Sitten otetaan trachea. Miksi tää näyttää siltä yhdeltä radiotornilta jossain Soulista jossain? Anteeksi ihan kauheeta. Miksi tää näyttää siltä?
Same as we did with the stomach. While cutting a small organ, such as the trachea, we must perform a precise incision to be able to cut with the very... Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've got it. Based on the report and preliminary documentation, it is safe to assume that the deceased passed out after consumption of alcohol and then fell asleep on his back. Then the gastric contents refluxed and flooded the airways.
Okay, refluxi.
That's why we don't forget about the recovery position at dorm parties.
Se on sammunut. Edelleen. Okay.
And now it's all clear. The death was caused by suffocation.
Pukehtuminen. Nimmaritauluun. Ops. Tossa on muuten mun nimmari oikeesti kaikille niille, jotka haluaa nimmariin, niin tossa se on.
It went quite smoothly today. I'm about to get off.
Close the chest.
In order to bring the chest of our deceased back to its initial state, at least to a small extent, we must take the needle in our hand.
Needless to say.
Used using the baseball stitch technique. This stitching method is very strong and quick to do.
What? Pick up the phone. Kuka mulle soittaa? Oh. Kohta varmaan peliästyminen. Hello.
This is Dr. Jack Hanman. Please leave a message.
Good evening. How are you? How are you? How are you?
What the
What the f is that supposed to be?
Tuo.
Finish the stitching and I'm getting the fuck out of here.
ASMR-videot in a nutshell. Eka vähän supistaa ja sit... Perseestä. Toi oli perseestä. Oh no, mä en ohjaa tätä. Joo. Oh. Mihin se hävis? Where did the body go? Oh my god. Ok, tää peli on tämmönen niinku kauhu, mut missä on vähän tommoista... Oh my god. Okei, Autopsy Simulator. Hold up. Tää oli vähän kuumottava. Tää oli oikeesti aika kuumottava. Mutta erittäin kiehtova siis simulaattoripelit parhaimmillaan tätä, että sä pääset tavallaan maailmaan, mikä on sulle täysin tuntematon. Toi nyt näyttää tälleen niin maalikon silmään semi jopa akkuratelta ja uskottavalta ja legitiltä. Totta kai ei se nyt ihan kaikki ole tossa, se on videopeli, mutta näyttääkö se aika hyvältä. Varmaan pakko pelata sitä, kun tää tulee. Tää oli tosiaan demo. Pakko varmaan pelata sitä, kun tulee. Mitä mieltä te ootte? Pelataanko tätä sitten, kun se tulee? Laitanko pelauslistalle? Niin. Oli hyvä. Mä tykkäsin, vaikka vähän kuumottikin. Tässä on ehdottomasti potentiaalia.